Good morning, everyone. Market is wild, continues to be wild. Anyway, it is what it is. These earnings reports coming out. You see some of them, the gap ups and Amazon and Apple, and huge gap downs in Meta. And some of the stocks that are gapping down are just wow. The ones that don't meet. So yeah, holding overnight has been a little depending. The earnings are coming out, so it's your personal decision. Good morning. Good morning. So yesterday, obviously there was a little selling going on and closed near the low of the day. And my comments in the room yesterday were like, okay, this should gap down. And of course, the earnings were coming out. And if they weren't, news items aside, odds are patterns like this would gap down and head down toward the gap fill. So not only was there Amazon and Apple, and then Netflix comes out and says that they're going to split 10 for 1, that gaps up above the whole consolidation on the 200 MA. Lucky for Dan and the weekly credit spread traders, because that looked like it was headed for the stop. And sometimes luck is good. That's always good when it plays into, when a trade like that. So here we are, just chopping around here pre-market, gapping up near the high of this big red bar. And I think we could probably come back to this in the future and say, it was a red bar ignored. It's normal. It's in an uptrend. It broke out a week ago. That's typically what happens. Well, yes and no. I mean, historically, prices do move down in uptrends and fill gaps, and buyers come in at lower levels. And this would suggest that we're going to see some sideways consolidation. And then, there's always the news that could move things. Maybe the government opens up and the market tanks for that reason, or not, or something else goes on, with China, the Ukraine, or whatever things might happen in this crazy world today. So back to the charts, what it suggests is, a trading range. And I think, unless something else comes out, and I think there's a few guys, somebody talking today, economic calendar, this Chicago PMI at 945, and this Logan is talking as the 930. And just keep that in mind. And Bostic is talking at 12 o'clock, and Hammock is talking at 12 o'clock. And so maybe there's some influences there. In any event, support as far as this futures go, yesterday's low, resistance yesterday's high, and you can see it's what's called an outside day. Most times it's going to trade inside the outside day, somewhere in between here. So yeah, it could test the lows, it could test the highs. Unlikely that it's going to get out of yesterday's range. And when I say that, it's based on historically this kind of a pattern and a gap up like that. Let's look at the others. And here we go. NASDAQ futures. Big reversal on the news. There was the sell-off. Looked like it was going to go lower. It held at that little shelf of overnight support. And when you get a bottoming tail bar like that, where you have a consolidation and it rips right back again, news or no news, odds are it's going to attempt to go up. There's a little bit of a shock pattern there. So now it's at resistance. Maybe can get up to the high of the day. At the moment, it's just stalled at that resistance to the left. And we'll be watching to see how it handles that, or whether it trades under here or not. I don't know that there's going to be any great opportunities. We had some good trades, short scalping trades in the ETFs, the leverage ETFs and the futures yesterday as they were moving. That shaped up. Now I'm looking at this weekly chart. I mean, look at that big red bar ignored. that bullish 180 and up again. And looking at that, I'm looking at this consolidation and the power move up, and now this gap. I was like, maybe next week could be another up bar. And moving up from where it has, and it just kind of flies in the face of, no, that's not logical. Who are we to decide? Anyway, it's creating, assuming that happens, and this turns out to be a correction type of bar, 2 bar situation, a red bar ignored, a continuation pattern, right? Assuming it closes strong, or if it closes above that high, that says yes, another up day. And if we should get that next week, that point, historically, we're in for some kind of pullback. And the internals are still, sentiment is starting to reach, I don't have the chart here. Sentiment is reaching a warning sign. And breadth has not gotten there yet because of this choppy stuff. But should this market continue higher, like it looks like it's going to, I think we'll get that internals risk off signal sometime next week. We'll see how that plays out. YM, rejection. So far holding the support, and I'll be keeping an eye on this to see, first of all, assuming the market's up and that continues, this little holding here, this should be the one that presents a long opportunity where it could possibly get back up somewhere to the top of this range. Down below here, look for some kind of a decline into the void. So, so far it's an inside day. There's an unfilled gap down here. Be aware of that. We'll see which way this is going to go. The Russell looked like it was going to take off yesterday. It attempted to. We talked about this over the last couple of days coming into this area, and now it's at the bottom, or close to the bottom of the support. It's weak. If we should get some kind of a sell-off down into here, well, it's got some decent room to go, but it's shelving for the moment, so it could go either way. And it's down several days in a row. Other markets, see what interest rates are doing, and then we'll get to the others. Interest rates moving up. Mention it again. This is a good thing. Shelving, going sideways. It's creating a shelf, Robert. So it went down there and it's moving sideways, and can it lift off from the shelf, or will the shelf crack? The analogy is it uh glass floor, or is it concrete? Am I missing a time frame upper chart to the right? No, I put it down here, DB. I put the weekly down here. I'm trying to arrange this so that when those view these recordings on social media, it's more visually pleasurable. Let's say that way. You can see the size of the bars, and I made the fonts a little bigger. So a lot of people watch these recordings. So I made it. The big black area challenges me. I get, oh, you don't see used to the old layout. Uh-huh. All right. If you're on social media, those of you on social media, do you see the chat room here? It should be, because I'm showing the screen. So I thought those on social media would be interested to see some of the comments in the chat. Dan a lot of times posts trades, early markets in there. So yeah, I set things up, make it more interesting. So interest rates moving up. If you didn't read the chart of the week, read it. It's coming up into resistance. This is a good thing. Intermediate term. A lot of times people think, interest rates going up. That's not good. So oil, let's see, is up a little bit. These oil stocks look like they're going to go higher. I mentioned that earlier. So this is pulling back, very shallow amount. It's dealing with this congestion. So far, acting pretty good. And Bitcoin is up. You only see the YouTube chat. You should see my charts, Julia. So if you see you can see that your chat. You don't see this chat. You know what? Let me open up YouTube. I don't want to spend too much time because Dan's, oh yeah, it's like a little black area there. Shoot, that's interesting. That sucks. Because I'm displaying the screen, but it's not showing that. Interesting. All right. Well, I'll look into that. Hmm. All right. Nothing I can do at the moment. When Dan's talking, I'll see what setting there is there. Okay, okay. So Bitcoin bottoming out, I think so. It's just really whippy. And gee, hmm, this one still going down. So Bitcoin's not getting any love lately. All right, let's get to, yesterday we talked about some of the warning signs, and they're still there. The theme of this market, and even sometimes last year, was that big cap stocks are moving it around. That's still the case. So, regional banks, if they start to break down, that's probably not going to be a good signal for the markets. And retailing, that's still weak and breaking down. So there's still plenty of warning signs. Don't be enamored by these moves. And even though things continue to move up, uh, I think as always, you got to look at other things. So gold, I thought it could go down to the 50, but it's been bottoming out. You can see the 65-minute here, um, kind of erratic. But anytime we see prices come up to a resistance area, like for this example right here, this comes up here and it collapses. And so that's okay. They're still selling the rallies. And then as it starts to roll over, it gets sold aggressively. But when it comes up and it starts going sideways, that's bullish price action. Right? We're price pattern traders. So reading the price action is what really gives us our edge, so to speak, in that what is the reaction to support and resistance, whether it's in an uptrend or a downtrend. And so as this got rejected up here, buyers stepped in and pushed it right back up again. So from an intraday trading point of view, this kind of price action leads me to think higher. Now, from a swing trading point of view, I think similarly, but because of the way it came down, I would not start with a full position. So you could look at GLD, of course, and because it gaps as it is, um, you can see it's just moving sideways here. But I mean, yeah, you could a starter position. I would much prefer if this because it's got a futures contract there. It you would like to see like if it gapped down and then had a green bar. So when I look at daily charts and something that's pulled back to an area of support, I like to see bottoming tail bars that break lows, gap downs that come right back up again. And this is going to gap up a little bit, which doesn't make it all that attractive. But look, pullbacks like this, it's under the 20. It wasn't that deep comparative to the way it went up, but I would not go all in, that's for sure. Because this could easily, and I thought, I, I said earlier in the week, I thought odds are it could come down to the 50. And so if you were to start with a small position and you share sized it down here, which would be a long way, of course, but you could hold on through whatever it is if you have a longer term perspective. That's the advantage of knowing how to share size things, and which isn't difficult. And then you can look to add and say average down, Greg. Yes, because if you start with that bias and proper money management, you can average down. All right. SPX should be in the same place where it was when I started here. because the S&Ps haven't moved much from there. And so I had to adjust it just before we started, but the call strike is above 6,900, which is good, and above that prior high. We know it's gapping up somewhere around here. And the put strike is below 6,800, and that's great. And so it would have to go through yesterday's low. It would have to fill the gap. It would have to go through 6,800. And so, you want to get a little under 6,800. And so if you do these upper and lower strikes that we show each morning, you got to go wide, probably like 20, you got to like 20 wide. And so if it doesn't work out, you're gonna get a black eye for sure. But you can manage them intraday. Well, yours, Dan.
Good morning. Happy Zero DTE. Happy Friday. Happy Halloween. We got 3 things to celebrate today. There was a ton of earnings I went through and I deleted a bunch of them already. So if I don't cover yours, just ask me again. I don't have any alarms going off. This Getty exploded for some reason. So going by the ticker. NEG, we're in this nice little bull rectangle. 1, 2, 3. Bought that yesterday. We have a third left. We're in trail mode. So yeah, my up alarm did go off on that. Set it higher. And this thing easily, my target is 90.95. That's a monster void. All right, alarm set. BAC, we had long calls, but I got us out break even yesterday just because the market was iffy and the calls expired today. But it's still bullish. I got a new alarm up here, but glad it would have been a loss now. So glad we got out break even. We have very light inventory. Let me actually see what our inventory is in the weekly options trader. Netflix, we got lucky there. That looked like it was going to stop us out. We entered as a Climo. And now, based on this close, it's a bear rectangle. The bear weekly. I said the weekly could come to 1050. So I tightened the stop on that. So we should be in good shape for today. And then yesterday we did an SMH Climo, just a 1 DTE. So we did 372. So guaranteed open profit. And that's it in the weekly. The advisory, we only have 2. That neg I just showed you and below. Little bull flag. That's it. Let's go to earnings. Apple. The bigger the gap, the better. I was hoping it would gap to 280, and then this could be a 0 DTE call spread. Amazon. This is what I call an extremely bullish gap over these 2 red bars, gapping those all-time highs. But since today is Friday, it's an excessive gap. So my bias is 30-minute low, 0 DTE call spread. I'll tell you around 10 o'clock how it shapes up. And then Meta, I posted as a watch also. This had earnings yesterday. It was gapping up here, $10 pre-market, but now it's backing off. And now it's up 3 to 4. Let me set a new alarm on this. And I'm only talking 0 DTE. I would not do it for next week. Let me set the alarm 675. aluminum, up and down, do you remember we had the talk? I think Robert asked me in the green room of what my bias was going into the Fed meeting. And I said, whichever way it moves, up or down or sideways, I think we're at a short-term top. And I said, it's the same rationale as something that rallied into earnings. This thing exploded into earnings. So regardless of where this thing opened, up, down, sideways, my bias is the short-term high. So what about today? Gap's too big. That's a monster gap down. Look at that, trapping all these bulls in here who held into earnings are now holding a losing position, but nothing to do with it now. WDC is another one that, like Amazon, extremely bullish gap, but it's a big gap on 0 DTE. So I have this one on the bottom right, but I have it on my other computer. So my bias, 30-minute low, 0 DTE. I would not do it for next week because that's a bullish gap. And I always look at the cousins on major earnings. So look at STX. That's a bullish 15-minute. That's far from the 20 for a swing. But that could be a 30-minute high on put spread and or day trade. It's SanDisk. Look at this explosion. Look at this. Broke out in August of whatever, $45. And now it's at 203. Incredible. Now this is not an extended 15, so I have zero interest in doing a call spread on that one. On Reddit put spread. If there's any juice, that'd be a 0 DTE. Just there's no pattern right now for directional, but that with the gap over this red bar, that's a very significant short-term bottom now. Actually, I got WDC on the other one, so I'm gonna put Reddit here. Coin 340. Bullish gap, of course, but I need more information. Roku 90 sets, the bearish gap. This is where retracement comes into play. So look at my horizontal line, 97. Wow. All right, so that's 100% retracement. So that's very bad. That actually could be a 30-minute low, 0 DTE call spread. 59. This is the opposite of Amazon and WDC. That it is a bearish gap. But let's see what happens. See if buyers step up there. 30-minute high put spread idea. A team, kind of a sloppy bull flag. 30-minute high maybe. Oh, and they right at 8:30, Steve Leisman came on and said there was news from the Fed. The guy who dissented on the rate cut. So he's all these Fed guys. Their bias is pretty simple these days. That are you favoring inflation risk or you favoring labor risk? And that's where you decide. And he said he's favoring inflation risk, so it shouldn't be cutting. Net 240. That's a bullish gap. But it's excessive. But that one, I mean that one, I wish it just gapped to like 232-ish, right over yesterday's. Look at this 15-minute chart. If it were to gap to 232, that would have been like a 5-minute long. Nice shock gap, not too extended, but Now it's too extended. Papa Kilo is a hotel. No pattern. Home run, no pattern. Zulu. Up a little bit, it says 50 cents. I mean, wait. Okay, because this says it was at 75.50. But now I see these little dots. It's coming down. So I don't know. Yeah, don't they still have 6 trillion on their balance sheet? Crazy numbers. Twilio 127. Here's another one that I wish it gapped up right there to 116.50. And then that would be a 5-minute high. But gap's too big. RSG, garbage truck. Maybe a gap and snap, but it's a bearish 15. So when you have a bearish 15, I like them when they sell off more in the first 30, 60 minutes. And let's check his cousin, Waste Management. Holding better, but still a nasty downtrend. GoDaddy's. This is a short idea and a call spread, 30-minute low. Look at daily, weekly, monthly. Look at this thing. What a beautiful setup this is. When we used to have our brick and mortar educational schools, we had 1 and 2 week labs, and I gave all kinds of quizzes. I mean, this would be a great one where I'd give a quiz. I'd just give them this chart and say, you've got 5 minutes to show me the most compelling setup and come to the front of the class and tell us why. You know what jumped out at me? Right here. You have a 180 closing breakdown at the 20, declining 50, bear 1, 2, 3, void. I mean, that's what trading's about, having a picture and a conviction, a belief, and you just enter and manage. But that's a no friggin' brainer setup short right there. I just had an E alarm go off. I was watching this, listen to nano nuclear stocks. It's sloppy, but had a balance of going sideways as a void. AJG. So this one done, possible gap and snap. Why do I say that? Easy. It's the Climo, far from the 20. Now you're gapping down $22. That's going in a window. When I say window, I mean a 5-minute little thumbnail, so I can, I put tier 1s in 5-minute windows, so I can see what they do in the first 30 minutes. That's what we do in the trading room every day to prepare for the market and find trades, whether they're day or swing. SYK gapping down to 360. I don't like that one at all. La Playa bullish gap, but sure, the gap's too big. Here's another one. Let's say it was gapping right to the 2. Let's say it was gapping to the 200, then I would have it as a tier 1 long watch. Almost. I mean, look how many I deleted, and I still didn't get through all these. Sorry, this was a possible gap and snap. It's already bouncing here. MSI is 420. Nope, that's bearish. MSI, Motorola, calm mess. It's bullish gap, but too big. See, this is a big gap, but it's gapped in the middle of no man's land here. So I don't like the MCS alarm. Okay, this was earnings. I had this one as a potential double bottom. So I will set a new alarm, 13:16. And don't worry about it. All right, Q spiders, pre-market 5-minute charts look very similar. And they're both retracing a little bit here. So we're in no rush to do anything. Although the 15-minute charts are significantly different. The Q's gapped over resistance, and spiders gapped to resistance. See that significant difference? Look at Reddit, bottom right. That was a put spread watch. That's a nice bottom. Sam, maybe when we have time, you can be a little guest speaker about nice bottoms. You can give us your experience. Because that's a nice bottom. MGA. It's bullish. I don't trade earnings in the first 5 minutes just because they're too friggin' whippy. Yeah, SYM. Remember we had this as a put spread, as a bear sandwich, 1, 2, 3, but it ripped. But I like the 15. It looks good. All right. All right, back to Reddit. I would do the 200s would be a no-brainer. I'm sure they're going to be spready as can be. 200s. Well, they're not as spready as I thought, but there's no juice. 20 by 40 is all. But we'll keep an eye on this depending on how it closes for next week put spread. All right, our Netflix, I'm doing great. Apple coming in hard after its gap. Like I said, this was a call spread watch for me, but I wanted it to gap up to 280-ish. ATGE. This was on my short watch, a bear 1, 2, 3. I said yesterday, if it opened flat, short the low, but the gap messed it up. This is a monster bearish gap, but excessive. So this, I would do a 0 DTE if they have them. SPOC, they don't have them. And the spreads are nuts. 55 puts or 0 by $1.50 for 3 weeks out. I'm gonna put a low offer at $1.40. I would take this at $1.40, $55 puts. Orders sent. All right, those are all their. No, they're not all their earnings. Yeah, those are all their earnings. No, a couple here from the morning. All right, let me do these. ABBV is bearish. That's a call spread idea over yesterday's high. If there's anything that's moved too much, AOM, but it was a gap from a Climo charter. Still looks lower. Don't like it. SIBO. Whoa, SIBO bullish gap. There's a put spread. SIBO, I would do the 0 DTEs 240s. 240s, 5 cents by $1.70. Freaking jerk. And I'm gonna do the 237s are spready as can be. So I'm gonna send an order out at 205 to sell 0 DTE puts. Don, how come you're not monitoring AJG for us, buddy? I said Captain Snap. It already snapped. AJG. There's no weeklies. So And I wouldn't have day traded it. Yeah, no worries. I wouldn't have day traded. So it did what we wanted, but there was no trade, so don't worry about it. Here, look at this SPSC I talked about. I'm trying to sell, well, I'm not gonna get filled, but that's a big old gap. ASPI, excuse me. I am short the $10 puts that expire today. So my low alarm went off. But I like this now as a directional for Monday over yesterday's home. Let me see where my puts are. It's actually my only open trade. All right, it's showing I got a loss because of the stupid spreads. 5 cents by 75. So I'm gonna bid a dime, try to close them. Stupid spreads. Q. All right. Well, I'm not gonna mess with it. Here, I had Met C as a long watch. Gap from Climo. I've been watching that ever since earnings were on Tuesday, but I don't like the way it's coming in. BAC alarm, but I'm not messing with that today. Right. I'm not messing with HAG. That's what I said. All right, below low alarm, but our stuff is much lower. MCS. Double bottom. You know, I'd like it to close like this, and then Monday might nibble over the high. All right, Meta. Whoa, Apple filled the gap already. All right, Meta's a mess. I'm not messing around with them. Look at Apple. That's a nasty reversal. Hey, that's SFM I was watching yesterday on that nasty gap. Earnings, Sprouts, Farmers. This could be a 30-minute high day trade. I think I looked yesterday, it didn't have weeklies. Yeah, 21 days. That's I had $70 puts or 70 by 85. I might consider that. $8 lower. And I can get 80 cents, 75, 80. Where's $70? Well, still has a void. Man, look at that run. From 37 to 180. So yeah, I'm having second. I mean, it's a nice short-term bottom, but I don't trust it for 3 weeks out. But yeah, keep an eye on it for day trading. All right, this WDC. It's not ready. Not ready, but let's see how much juice there is for 0DTE. 160 or higher. Yeah, 162 is get like 90 cents, so it's worth watching, but we just gotta We gotta find an entry. All right, John, that SYM came in, so I, it is a 1, 2, 3. I just didn't like the 1, 2, 3 at this prior high. Without it going sideways more. Man, look at PSA, and it had a bullish gap yesterday. Look at this 15-minute chart. It's still going lower. A lot of these REITs I've been saying have been getting killed. Mike Papa looking lower, can't make the turn. Look, MDB from yesterday, remember? We were talking about that breakout. That works. That worked well. Kermel. I was trying to make the turn, but see, this is not a clean void. Came down in a chaotic manner. There's that Metsi I was watching. That's Mighty Mo. Is a Climo, but I don't trust it as a swing, but day trade or 0 DTE. Check. Does it have zeros? Mighty Mo. Yes, it does. The 57s. 1 penny by 30. 1 penny. Jerk. And Rig is still on my list here. It had earnings yesterday, kind of a bold rectangle. 1, 2, 3 weekly. So Rig I still like. This FI got killed on earnings, but still no turn. LRN killed on earnings. There's SYM again. Vico Soare it's been posted all week long, and it just hasn't triggered. The trigger is over this high, which is what, last Friday. Hasn't triggered, but it's fine if it does. But now earnings 11.5. Shoot. All right, that's not enough days now because Monday will be November 3rd. So I gotta cancel. I gotta cancel Vico Soare.